But I do think that the left has kind of warped what happened on January 6th a little bit with like Brian Sicknick. Brian Sicknick died as a result of natural causes. He wasn't murdered by January 6ers or anything like that. All of the deaths on January 6th, most of them were not even.
So the coroner,
they were protesters.
So you're a journalist. I think you know this. The coroner did an interview and said that he believed, and the guy who actually did the autopsy on Brian Sicknick said, you're right, he did die of natural causes, but also was quoted as saying the events that took place on January 6th, he believed helped lead to the state of the body that he was in, the state that he was in the following day. So do you discredit?
Well, I think that if you say that like the stress of the day could have led to a stroke, I think that you could, on that basis, probably convict anyone for just about anything. If I call somebody a mean name or harass them one day and then they die of a stroke the next day because of increased stress, I don't think that I'm responsible for that murder or for that death. I think that this person obviously had an underlying health condition that ultimately resulted in their death. I don't think that we can attribute like stress or whatever. It's very similar to like there were several police officers who committed suicide after January 6th, and there's no evidence that links those suicides to the riot. The suicide rate in police officers is already extremely high.
So would you discredit those family members that have said that those police officers, those who sadly took their own lives, were never the same since that day on January 6th? I mean, I'm not going to do that. You know, I'm not about to do that.
I'd be interested to hear. I haven't seen any statements from families. I'd be interested to see them, and I'd be interested to see what evidence they base their claim that those suicides were based on the riot on. But as far as I've seen, and it's been a while since I've looked into January 6th, obviously because it was so long ago, but as far as the body of evidence I've seen, there isn't anything to suggest that those suicides were the result of.
Okay. Well, maybe we're getting into the weeds, but I think we both could hopefully agree that there were a lot of people that were injured that day. 140 officers were injured. People did die. It was a horrible day, and it was an embarrassing day for the country. Can we agree on that? Maybe.
I absolutely agree.
Good. Would you say January 6th happens? The last question about January 6th. Then I want to talk about where you're at today, and then we'll let you go. And I appreciate your time. Would you say January 6th happens if Donald Trump does concede the election? Do you think it happens?
If he conceded the election?
Yeah, if he didn't lie and say that the election was stolen and that the Democrats rigged it, do you think it still would happen?
I don't know. I think that it would just be based on like conjecture or circumstantial evidence, because even when Trump says certain things, like sometimes the more radical factions within the Republican Party continue to go against what he says. Like, for example, when he supported vaccines, he was booed at his own rally. So I think it depends, and I think the people that broke into the Capitol were ultimately the most radical factions of the body of people who voted for Trump. So it's hard to say because there was election denial before Trump didn't concede anyway. So I think it's hard to say, and I think that to say one way or the other, it would just be conjecture, because there are still crazy elements within all parties anyway, and I think that those people still might have done it anyway.
Perhaps. I think a lot of people were listening to what Donald Trump had to say when he said the election was rigged or stolen, and I think that's the main reason why they were there. But again, we both agree that was a very bad day for the country, and I'm sure we both wish that would never happen. Were you there that day, by the way? You've been a journalist for a little while. You were not there that day.
No, I wasn't.